Hey, I'm Joe at J-Red Studios. In this video, I'm going to show you guys how I made these waterfall floating nightstands with soft closed drawers, so check it out. To make these nightstands, we needed to go ahead and glue up a couple panels long enough to get all four sides from, and then a little extra in case there's any kind of messed up cuts. So right now, just spreading some Titebond 2 all down the edges of there, plopping some dominoes in, and then I'm going to get everything squeezed up in some parallel clamps. When gluing up panels, you just want to make sure you have a nice even bead to squeeze out, and then you wipe that up with a wet rag or come back later and scrape it off with a chisel. Once these panels were dry and out of clamps, I took them over and sanded them all down, get any of the remainder of that off. I also took this time to fill any cracks or knots with some CA glue. From there, went ahead and ripped both panels to uniform width, trying to make the sides as even as possible since these were both 3-board panels. Once everything was cut to final width, it was time to go ahead and start cutting out our individual pieces. So to get the waterfall effect, you need to cut them in a certain order. You start with one side, so you do a short side, and then you do your long side, and then you do the opposite short side, and then you'll do the bottom. You do the bottom last because I said that piece isn't going to have a perfect grain match, but it's on the bottom, so no big deal, you won't be able to see it. From there, just set the blade to 45 degrees, and we're going to start making our miters now that everything's cut down into more manageable chunks. So like I said, just cutting off the excess, flip around, and then cut that other side. And make sure you cut both sides at the same time, so top and bottom at the same time, and the same thing for the sides. This way everything comes out exactly the same, and it gives you much tighter miters. If you take your time and get all the prep work done correctly, the glue up should go very smooth. Like I said, with this, you're just going to go ahead and spread all some Titebond in there, and then I'm going to use blue tape to hold that joint shut. If you have some gaps, don't worry, it's not a big deal. You can use some clamps, or you can also make sure you adjust your tape. And then just want to go ahead and just quickly check for square. Make sure that one of the sides isn't out of alignment and you just don't realize it. Now that the boxes are all dried and glued up, it was time to go ahead and install our undermount drawer slides. Once we get these drawer slides installed, we'll be able to go ahead and start breaking down some plywood to make the actual drawer boxes. Now for the drawer boxes, I'm going to be using 3/4 inch white oak plywood. I had a bunch left over from a bookcase I had built earlier in the year, and I really like the way white oak looks with the Caribbean walnut. So while these boards were all in long sections, I decided to go ahead and cut the 1/4 inch groove for our bottom panel all at the same time, just to save me from having to do 8 different passes versus just 2 boards at once. So I made that first pass, tap that fence over an 1/8 inch, and lock it down, and then make that second pass. Using the measurements I got off of my drawer slides earlier, I set a stop lock on the miter gauge, and then I started roughing all my pieces out. Once I had all the pieces out, off camera, I went and pocket holed the fronts and the backs of the drawers. You're never going to see either of these. The drawer face is going to cover the front, and then the back is going to be inside of the nightstand. So again, don't stress too much about making elaborate joints for your drawer boxes. Like I said, these will never be seen, and they're going to be in my guest room, so the odds of that are even lower unless one of you guys stays over and you're creeping on all my projects, which don't do that. Before I finished assembling the drawer boxes, I needed to go ahead and cut out some panels. So quickly on the table saw, just cut down some 1/4 inch sheets of plywood to fit in that 1/4 inch groove we had cut earlier. And the last detail for these drawers is we're going to make some solid hardwood, some white oak edge banding. So just making multiple passes on the table saw, just ripping off 1/8 inch strips at a time. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut 45-degree miters and glue those on. After I got all the hardwood edge banding put on, I took a flush trim bit in my palm router and then just cleaned up all the sides, just taking my time, going all the way around. Make sure I didn't want to have that bearing dig in or get any tear out. To mount these to the wall, I'm going to be using French cleats. So if you don't know what French cleats are, you basically cut a 45 into your board, and then you'll have one on the wall and then one on the thing you want to hang. And then when you set the nightstand on the wall, the French cleat is going to lock into itself and hold that piece on there, kind of like this. To attach these French cleats to the nightstands, I'm just going to use some Titebond Quick and Thick and then some black Starbond CA glue. So just spread a little bit on there. And the CA glue is going to act as a clamp, so I don't have to have any awkward angles, deal with any of that mess. So spray the activator on the box, press it in place, make sure it's all lined up and flush, hold it there for a couple seconds, and then we're good. With everything assembled, it was time to go ahead and prep for finish. So off camera, I sanded everything to 220, then water popped all the grit, sanded it again by hand, and then came back with a tack cloth and made sure to get all the loose dirt and debris off. For the finish, I'm using Simple Finish. This is another hard wax oil similar to Rubio. This is actually the stuff that I used on the queen bedroom set itself, so I wanted the nightstands to match for obvious reasons. Once you rub that in, let it sit for 15 to 20 minutes. You come back and buff it off. Now, unlike the Rubio, this one you can actually come back the next day and do a second coat if you wanted to darken everything up or up the sheen. I like the way it looks with just one coat. You can still feel the grain, and it kind of has a little bit more of a matte finish. So once that's set, you let it cure for about 24-48 hours. The last thing we had to do before getting these things installed was put our drawer knobs on and get those face frames installed. So off camera, I'd cut down some white oak face frames, and then using a squeeze clamp, got them all lined up, and then just sent a couple small screws through the back to hold them in place. And with that, everything was done. A little test shot of that soft close action. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making these. Please like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends. And if you haven't already, check out some of my other videos and go follow me on Instagram at JRutStudios. Thanks, and I'll see you guys next time.